Alright, so this is a trick to get your head above the rim. You need to be pretty close without it. But I mean, this is like my 10th time doing it, maybe. Second day that I figured out that I could do this, getting my head above the rim. So various things to talk about. First thing I'll say is the landing from this is pretty scary, and that's a lot of the reason I do this. If I can land from 50 inches, then I have no problem landing from 36 and below, which is my more like average basketball jump. I'm usually not getting really. I think that my vertical is definitely not higher than 40. Probably maximum in the 38 range. In most games of basketball, I'm generally not jumping probably more than 34 unless something else goes wrong. So anyways, it's just good to be able to land from much higher than you can normally land from. And as you can see, my landing is pretty good, pretty controlled. I'm landing facing backwards, landing in a squat, which I always think is the ideal way to land. You can see that I swing my arms around wildly, like 4 full rotations. I do that for balance. For whatever reason, it just works for me. It's hard to explain, but it just works well for me. Other things to think about. So I learned how to do this from Kador Ziani. If you don't know Kador Ziani, he's a really famous Algerian dunker. He was a 1-foot dunker and did crazy dunks. And he was, people used to say like a 60-inch vertical because he got his head way above the rim. He was also famous for kicking the basketball out of where it gets jammed between the basketball and the backboard, which is totally crazy. The reality is Kador's vertical to me didn't look to be more than the low 40s, but his legend had a lot to do with on certain dunks he would do this. He would dunk the ball and then pull up, and it looks like, oh my god, he dunked the ball and then kept going up and hit his head over the rim, and he's 5'10", so that must mean he's got a 56-inch vertical or whatever, right? Not the case. I figured that out, and I stole it from him, and it's going to make for a sweet picture also. Also, here's another thing to think about. I'm running, going into a pull, into a jerk, into a clean, pull up, let go, squat coming, definitely landing this in a squat, squat up, toe raise descend, toe raise up, again, run, so like if you want to practice things for jumping, here's things you can practice. Sprinting is good, doing Olympic lifts, pull, clean, jerk is good. Pull-ups are somewhat relevant for something like this. The most important thing you can do is squat. Get good squat form, not necessarily be able to squat heavy weight, because that'll allow you to have good landing. And then calf raises are not really something that I practice because it's not that relevant. Once you've already diffused that main landing from squatting, it's not super relevant that the calf raise is just not so important. But I mean, that's another way to think about jumping, is a combination of all these functional movement exercises, and that's what we train for. Not necessarily be able to do them with lots of weight, but be able to do them with good form, the ways our body are intended, way our body's intended, and transition between these motions, transfer force, and never lose anything. So getting your head above the rim, that's what it's all about.